Welcome to the Like Me Officially podcast, a space for honesty, reflection, and rethinking the stories we've carried, knowingly or unknowingly, and seeing ourselves more clearly. I'm JK. I speak from lived experience and curiosity. I'm a seeker of truth and creating distance from the lies that have kept me stuck. Listen, this isn't about more labels. It's about becoming and acknowledging who we are beneath what we've lived through. I'm not here to fix anyone. I'm just sharing what I've learnt and what I'm still discovering as I evolve in thriver mode. If any of that meets you where you are, or maybe you're here to explore a different way of seeing things and to learn something new, welcome. Take a breath, settle in, and let's get into today's episode. I'm no longer asking who I am without my trauma. What I'm doing is I'm learning to accept who I can get to be in spite of my life experiences. But that clarity took years to find. There was a time when I kept asking, if I'm not the person who survived X, then who am I? That question woke up with me in the mornings. It followed me through my day into rooms filled with laughter that I couldn't quite feel part of, because for so long my identity was built on being a survivor. It shaped how I saw myself. It shaped how others saw me. It shaped how I moved in the world, and it shaped my perception of the world. And even as I started to heal, even as I began to feel lighter and somewhat freer, a part of me still held on to that identity. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know who I would be without it. When being a survivor becomes your way of life, letting go of that identity feels like stepping into nothingness. This is Like Me Officially podcast. I'm JK, and this is where raw truths meet reflection, where I challenge the stories I've lived with and explore self-advocacy and move beyond surviving life-changing experiences into courage, self-insurance, and thriving. Because if you're anything like me, you know this is our time and our time to thrive. There was a time when I thought healing meant pretending the pain never happened, so I kept performing. I smiled through exhaustion. I worked through the silence. I said I'm fine even when I wasn't. And for many, many years, I was surviving in the sea of adult finance, for example. On the surface, I looked the part, responsible, accomplished, growing. But beneath it, I was treading water, never quite able to touch the ground. I was doing everything that looked right, saving, planning, earning more, but I was still in a space of survival mode. And when you're busy surviving life, you don't always notice how close you are to drowning. It took me years to recognize what I was really doing, how I would create stability, then quietly undo it or unconsciously undo it. Build systems, then neglect them. Reach goals, then drift from my goals. Every cycle had the same rhythm, the rise, the fall, and then the rebuild. It wasn't about irresponsibility. It was about something much older and deeper, something I didn't even realize I was reliving. My money story began the day my dad died. That was the moment life changed from having everything, in my opinion, to having nothing. From security to scarcity, from stability to uncertainty. And without knowing it, that experience rewired something in me. It taught me that abundance doesn't last, that safety always has an expiry date. So even when things were good, when the bills were paid and the pressure was gone, part of me would still start to pull away from peace. Because chaos, if I'm honest, felt familiar. Stability felt foreign. It took me a long time to see the pattern for what it was. I learnt the rhythm of loss and recovery. And when I finally got it, the truth was sharp. And the thing is this, you can't change what you don't notice. And so I couldn't change because I didn't notice. Maybe I didn't want to notice it. But now I notice it. And now I'm changing. And that moment of recognition, it just broke something for me, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend you don't know it's there. That was the beginning of one part of my healing, noticing, because awareness is the doorway out of survival mode. That's when I began to understand survival isn't just instinct, it's actually a skill I mastered so well. I didn't even know I was using it. I could anticipate change before it happened. I could read people without words. I could sense when the energy in a room shifted and adjust before anyone else noticed. That's what trauma does. It turns you into someone who is hyper aware, someone efficient at avoiding pain. The problem is it doesn't know how to switch off. Even when life calms down, the body keeps rehearsing the next storm. It took me a while to realize that my nervous system was just doing its job, keeping me alive in the only way it knew how. And that realization brought something new into my story, compassion. Because healing isn't about blaming the version of me that coped. It was about thanking her and allowing her to rest. When I really started to think about it, I asked myself, what does it mean to survive? The word survive actually comes from the Latin word supervivere. Super meaning beyond and vivere meaning to live. So to survive literally means to live beyond. And that's what I've done for most of my life. I've lived beyond loss, beyond pain, beyond the moments that should have broken me and taken me out. But surviving isn't the same as living. Surviving is endurance, not evolution. Surviving is treading water to stay afloat rather than swimming to the shore to get out and walk on land. And I've realised that the word survivor, though meant to honour strength, started to feel heavy for me. This word seems to work better for those who have thankfully beaten cancer. A bell is rung, there is celebration, there is visible joy, happiness and excitement. But that same level of energy, I realise, isn't given to those who have survived sexual harm. There is no bell, no public joy, no shared relief. What we get is silence, crickets, and maybe the odd raised eyebrow that is actually a question. What did you do to deserve this? So I not only question the inequity of it, I question what the silence and the looks teaches us about whose pain is worthy of honour, whose pain is worthy to be celebrated, and whose survival is meant to be hidden. Because if we can celebrate one kind of survival and stay silent, stroke judgmental about another, what does that say about the stories we choose to hold and the ones we choose to avoid? And I get it now. I really do. The need for some to reclaim their bodies through public display of nakedness, though not my thing, I understand it. It's a way of saying, I exist. This is my body. This is my body again. It's a declaration that what was once taken will no longer be hidden or shamed. Because when the world won't celebrate your return to yourself, sometimes you have to become your own celebration. That realization made the word survivor even heavier, because it didn't just hold my past, it held the weight of a world that still struggles to look at certain kinds of pain. It reminded me of the chapter I closed, not the life I'm still writing. I don't want to only live past what happened. I want to live within what's next. And that's where thriving begins, not in the endurance, but in the evolution. Because everything that breathes grows, and everything that grows evolves. For example, the caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly by adding more wings to its body. It transforms by surrendering to change and then completely transforming itself into a butterfly, and it welcomes the process, it trusts the process to become a butterfly. And another example is a pearl. The pearl itself, that's the end product, but it begins as an irritation, a grain of sand lodged deep inside the shell. Layer by layer, what once caused discomfort becomes something luminous. Each evolves, not by escape, but through process. And maybe that's what thriving really is. Not a destination, but a series of transformations, each one calling you closer to who you were always meant to be. There's a difference between survival and being a survivor. Survival is the act, the constant doing, the bracing, the protecting. Being a survivor is the identity, the name you wear after the storm. But when both stay active long after the danger has passed, they stop protecting you and start defining you. That's the space I was living in, between instinct and identity. Being told I was a survivor, then being told I was a victim, or was it, I was told I was a victim first, then I was told I was a survivor. Identities given to me by systems and culture, new names I couldn't question because that was the norm, but the names that never really felt quite right to me, because even though those words were meant to validate my experience, they also confined me. They told me who I had been, but not who I was becoming. And that's where the real work of healing began for me. Once I began to question those labels, victim, survivor, I started to notice how my body was still living by those terms, those labels, those names. Even when life was calm, I couldn't rest. My shoulders stayed tense. My mind kept scanning for what might go wrong next. I realized my body hadn't yet caught up with my awareness. It was still doing what it had learnt to do, stay alert, just in case. That's when I first came across something called learned safety. For years, I had lived in what I now understand as learned fear. So basically, my body had memorized danger in every raised voice, every silence, every slow, gentle, or aggressive footstep, and every sudden change. It had learnt that calm was temporary and chaos was constant. I was always on high alert. Learned safety is the opposite of that. It's what happens when your body slowly starts to understand that the threat is over. I found out now that this isn't just an emotional idea, it's neuroscience. The amygdala, the part of the brain that detects threat, becomes overactive after trauma. It keeps you alert, scanning for danger even when there's none. And over time, and through consistent safety cues, things like slow breathing, laughter, prayer, therapy, touch, or even time in nature, another part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex begins to speak again. And it tells the amygdala, hey, we're okay, we made it, we're safe. And every time you experience calm without danger following, your brain takes note. That's how new neural pathways form, literally reprogramming the nervous system. It's called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change. What? That right there, that that has blown my mind learning that and understanding that's learned safety in action. It's the process of teaching your body that peace isn't something to fear, it's something to trust, for example. And what that proves, and I need you to really hear this, is that trauma might shape the brain, but it doesn't break it. You're not permanently wired for pain. The same brain that learned to fear can learn to rest. The same body that tends to survive can learn to exhale and feel safe again. Healing doesn't mean the memory disappears. It means the body learns a new way to respond to the world. And that is so powerful because it means change isn't just possible, it's physical. Each deep breath, each prayer, each walk in the sun, they're not just comforting acts. They're evidence your brain uses as proof that you are safe now. It's slow work for sure, but I feel it's sacred work because every calm moment reminds your body, well, it reminds my body that the danger has passed, that I'm safe. It's okay to rest. It's okay to sleep. It's okay to relax. The science tells us that when we experience trauma, the brain rewires itself to expect danger. It's the body's way of keeping us alive, anticipating threats, staying alert, rehearsing every possible scenario. The problem is, even when the danger is gone, the body doesn't always get the memo. That's why calm can feel suspicious, why quiet feels loud, why joy sometimes feels unsafe. Healing, I realize, isn't just about forgetting the past. It's also about teaching my body that it is safe to be in the present. Saying to myself, you don't have to be on guard anymore. You can breathe now. But even that piece felt like something I had to relearn. Maybe you've been there too, in that space between who you were and who you are becoming, where you crave peace but don't yet trust it, where you want love but yet don't know how to embrace it. It's strange, right? The way we can know in our minds that we've made it through something but still feel like we are bracing for something we can't see. That's the moment, I think, where healing truly begins. The noticing, the slowing, the acceptance, the learning to breathe again and be again. Maybe healing isn't about fixing what's broken or what's broke. Maybe it's about remembering what was always whole. Like the word heal comes from the Old English healan, meaning to make whole. And from that same root, we get whole and we also get holy. Wholeness doesn't mean flawless, right? It means you've gathered yourself fully, honestly, including the parts that maybe you've rejected because of trauma. You're not broken. I'm going to repeat that again. You are not broken. I am not broken. We are complete. We're just learning how to live from a different truth again and again. To heal is to return to what's sacred within you, to remember that even in the chaos, you were never less than whole. And I get it now, why some people reclaim their bodies, their voices, their joy in ways that feel bold, even defiant. For them, it's the declaration, I'm here. For me, it's more subtle, more quieter, but no less holy. Because wholeness doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just breathes. Sometimes it smiles. And sometimes it laughs. That's the power of healing. Not to erase what happened, but to reintroduce you to yourself. The more I'm learning, or I've learned, the more I'm realizing that healing isn't just emotional, it's biological. Every thought, every memory, every breath we take sends signals throughout the nervous system. When the body experiences trauma, the brain releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Those chemicals are designed to protect you, but when they stay active for too long, they start to wear your body down. And studies show that prolonged survival mode can increase inflammation in the body, weaken the immune system, disrupt sleep, and even change how the brain processes joy. Neuroscientists at Harvard found that people who practice daily self-regulation, like mindful breathing, prayer, or journaling, reduce their stress hormone levels by up to 35% within 8 weeks. That's the science. But the spirit of healing, that is something different. It's what happens when you start to believe that peace is not only possible, but safe. When prayer, meditation, stillness, or even tears become the body's way of saying, I'm home now. Healing is a partnership, I feel, between your biology and your belief, between what the body remembers and what the soul decides to release. Because you can survive without healing, but you can't thrive without it. Surviving keeps you alive. Healing brings you back to life. It brings you back home to yourself. And I choose to partner with science, spirituality, and nature to heal. Science allows me to understand the detail of what's happened, or what's happening to my body and in my body. It helps me visualize my cells, my hormones, my nervous system as they repair, rebalance, and realign. Spirituality, my faith, helps me to connect the unknown with the known. It makes my prayers more specific. It shapes my visualizations when I meditate. It's how I speak directly to what I can't see yet, but deeply believe. And nature reminds me what's true. The pulse of the earth, the rhythm of breath, the medicines that grow from the soil, they all share the same message. I am part of something whole and beautiful. Science, spirituality, and nature all three work well together, in my opinion. They always have, and they will continue to bring me closer to home. I'm not there yet. I'm on the journey, and I'm glad to be awake, no longer surviving life, but choosing to live it and be part of it. As imperfect as it is, I wake up each day with pure gratitude, grateful to speak life into my body, to soothe it on the days when it remembers so intensely, and to tell her I am absolutely okay. To remind her that the next moment will be the best moment ever. I see who I was and I'm thankful. I see who I am now and I'm thankful for who I was. And I can see who I'm becoming and I'm flipping excited because I'm evolving, I'm transforming. And as hard, challenging, and even painful as this journey is at times, I'm glad to be on the climb upwards. It means I'm alive, I'm living in the most beautifully perfect and imperfect way. So what now? If being a survivor isn't my identity, then what is? Healing isn't erasing the past, it's deciding the past no longer defines my future. I'm allowed to change, even if it confuses people, even if sometimes it confuses me. Now, letting go of being a survivor or being in survivor mode doesn't mean denying what I've lived through. It means I'm choosing to live beyond it. Stepping into the unknown is flipping terrifying, but so is staying stuck in a story I have outgrown, a story which I was never taught how to even exist in. Oprah Winfrey said, one of the hardest things in life is letting go of what you thought was real. And Michael Singer wrote, if you let go of the past, the only thing left is the present, and that is where life happens. And Dr. Gabor Mate reminds the world, people say, I am who I am because of what I went through. No, you are who you are in spite of it. These are more than quotes, they are reminders, because what's on the other side of survival isn't emptiness, it's expansion. And every day I show up, every day I choose differently, I choose to love honestly, rest without guilt, I am rewriting my story. I'm becoming the evidence that thriving is possible. And maybe that's what courage also looks like now. Not fighting, but finally allowing me to be. Allowing peace to be safe, allowing joy to stay, allowing love to land and be believed. And that's who I'm becoming. Not a survivor, but a woman living fully, freely, faithfully within the space of what's next. So who would I be without my trauma? Honestly, I don't know because I didn't know her before. I can only imagine based on the lives of other people that I've witnessed. So I don't focus on who I'd be without my trauma. I focus on who I can be within this moment. I work with what I have, my awareness, my healing, my current capacity, and I keep doing the work to become more of the woman I see in my future, in spite of what I've lived through. And I have to remind myself often, I'm not late, I'm not behind, I'm not too old, I am right on time. This moment, this version of me is mine to claim and to own. And in this moment, yes, I still carry memory, but not as an identity, but rather an experience or experiences. I walk lighter now. I'm learning slowly to connect with love again. And I'm looking forward to the day of my love breakthrough. I imagine it to be quite explosive. And I'm curious and open about life again instead of guarded and isolated. I'm open to joy without analyzing it, and I'm learning to welcome and have peace as my staple. And what I do know to be true is that I've always felt there was so much more. I've always been ambitious. So what I know now is that my trauma has forced me to want more than pain and more than just surviving for myself. Because there is more to see, more to become, more to live for. I may not fully know who I'll be without my trauma, but I do know who I'm becoming because of my healing. And that to me is everything. Would you dream more? Would you love more deeply? Because healing isn't just about getting through. It's about creating a life that goes beyond it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Like Me podcast. If anything I've shared has made you stop, think, or see yourself just a little bit clearer, fantastic. I love this for you. I love this for me. And honestly, I love this for us. And if this episode shifted something in you, give yourself a moment to sit with it. And if anything felt a little bit too heavy, speak to someone you trust. What I've learnt is that we don't heal in isolation, and you don't have to carry any of this alone. This space isn't about staying in survival mode. It's about lifting ourselves out of the dimension that has tried to keep us trapped. and choosing a version of ourselves that's still becoming. If this resonates with you, share with someone who might need a reminder or a friend. And make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. I'm JK. Stay open, stay self-curious, and remember, it's our time to thrive.